All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of the Great Bogey podcast. I'm your host, Cameron. 3 topics today: the return of Anthony Kim, the Grumbles from Taylor Gooch, and Rory to LIV. Well, let's start right at the top with Anthony Kim. Right, probably uh, people my age. Some of the biggest news that you could receive for golf is the phenom of Anthony Kim returning to pro golf after what is a 12-year hiatus. Essentially quit due to injury, it seems. Rumors have always gone around about him taking some sort of insurance policy payout that prohibited him from playing golf. Uh, was not really sure if I've ever been able to find confirmation on that, but that is, the rumor here. So, Anthony Kim, he's an interesting guy. He always had a big ego. He's a big belt buckle guy, just a ton of flair, ton of a little bit of cockiness. Some people were dubbing him as the next Tiger Woods at one point. Um, went pro in 2006 and finished a tie for second on his PGA Tour debut at the Valero Texas Open. 2006, right, pretty much when I was getting into golf. I was 16 and really started paying attention a little bit. Looking at clubs, playing a lot more, going to the driving range, and no doubt Anthony Kim and his excitement probably played a role in that, as well as Tiger Woods, of course. Let's talk. It just seems the move to LIV fits the Anthony Kim storyline, right? And it could be huge for LIV if he plays well. It's a win-win for them in my eyes, right? So if he doesn't play well, it's like, oh, okay, whatever. He doesn't make the team over the next season, and you don't hear from him again. Nothing new, right? We've gone the last 12, 13 years without hearing about Anthony Kim. But if he plays well, it's just another good player on their squad that they got, in their league. It does take away, he didn't have to earn a spot. He just had to be Anthony Kim. It's not like he had an unsuccessful pro career, in the PGA Tour from 06 to 2012. I mean, he had 122 starts, 84 cuts made, 3 wins, 4 seconds, 7 thirds, and 22 top 10s, 43 top 25. So half of the cuts he made, he was top 25. Not bad. I mean, that comes with a $12 million, earning, which puts him, looks like 133rd on the money list for the PGA Tour. His best year finishing on the money list was 6th in 2008 when he carded 2 wins. What are those 2 wins? Let's look. PGA Tour wins the Wachovia Championship, won by 5 strokes, 16 under par. He won the AT&T National and the Shell Houston Open. Excuse me. He won the Shell Houston Open in a playoff with a par on the first hole. Interesting. I think a big thing about Anthony Kim too is his performance at the Ryder Cup, right? See if I can pull up that information. They won 2008. Let's see if we can find what his stats were. Anthony Kim was 23. He was 6th in points. Rank and then world ranking. My camera just go out. Oh boy. Having some technical difficulties. Long story short, this is my second time recording this. Looks like the internet's a little unstable. We're going to power through it, figure it out. All right. So he tied his first morning foursome. It was him and Phil versus Padraig Harrington and Carlson. And then Mickelson and Kim beat Harrington and McDowell 2 up. So he's 1-0-1. then lost in the next day, morning foursomes with Phil, 2-1. So he's 1-1-1. Didn't play in the afternoon. And he beat Sergio Garcia in the single Sunday, 5-4. So 2-1-1 in his Ryder Cup. But he was the first match out, in that Ryder Cup, it looks like. If I'm reading this correctly, top to bottom, he'd be the first person out with Sergio. So getting that first point on the board that day, probably a big momentum swing. Big just it's great for the program, right? Getting that first win. So 3 wins in the PGA Tour, $12 million earned just in tour earnings. So let's not forget the Nike sponsorship, whatever money he got from that. So he's made quite a bit of money. And when I look at videos and pictures of Anthony Kim, now that he's announced playing at Jeddah and he's a LIV, we'll call him wild card, I think. He looks like a guy who made $12 million plus in his early 20s and just after that lived his life. He looks like he's seen some things. Like, he's 38 now. You just look older when you go missing for 13 years. You got that kind of money. You live life, you have fun, you probably party a little bit. Yeah, I mean, has anybody seen Steve Aoki and Anthony Kim in the same room? Makes you think. Anyways, I think it's good for LIV if he plays well. It's kind of a wash if he doesn't, right? They got tons of guys not playing well on LIV. So you pick up a superstar in Anthony Kim, I'll say an ex-superstar in Anthony Kim, and he comes out firing, just winning and competing every week, then, well, I shouldn't say every week, right? They play like 4 times a year. So it could be big or it could be a wash. I don't see this necessarily a lot. Like if he plays bad, they're not going to lose anything. What are they going to lose? Couple bucks? That's not a problem. I'm curious to know how much he made, on his whatever we'll call the signing bonus with LIV. It's probably got to be at least $5, $6, $7 million. I mean, that'd be enough. I'll go put myself out there. If give me a call, LIV. I'm there next tournament. If you guys need like an 11 handicap to put in perspective how good these guys are, I'll be that guy. You just let me know for way less, by the way. Excuse me. All right, so 3 pro wins, $12 million made on the money list. Played in Jeddah. The big problem with Jeddah and viewership and maybe LIV in general is anybody getting up at 1 a.m. to watch this live? I live in Denver, the Denver area, Mountain Time. It starts at 1 a.m. I have a 3-year-old. I'm not getting up at 1 a.m. Maybe I stay up. Probably not. That's a problem I see. It's also one of the perks, I guess, right? They play a lot overseas. I think half their tournaments are in other countries. I think they're going to be in Bangkok, Singapore, Australia, of course. They're in Saudi Arabia. They'll be in the UK. I would say it may be beneficial for the PGA Tour to have less tournaments, while having more prominent, important tournaments overseas, right? They have the Open. That's pretty much the big tournament that happens overseas. Now, yeah, there's a European Tour, the DP World Tour, but the PGA Tour hasn't really dipped into that international. Yeah, they go to Mexico and the Bahamas or whatever, but still, it's not international, if you ask me. Personally, I'm excited to see what Anthony Kim does. I'm not going to watch it live because it's happening at 1:00 in the morning. But it's interesting. It's a needle mover. He was a big player 10 years ago, 13 years ago, whatever it is. Let's see if he can pick right up. Personality wise, he's picked up right where he left off. I think his first quote I saw from him today was, he doesn't know a lot of these guys, but he's just there to bust some asses. So the confidence is there. The ego's there. Let's see if he can back it up with his play. So looking forward to recapping it and seeing where we're at. That brings me to the next topic of Taylor Gooch. Just so you know, now every tournament in the world that's ever happened without Taylor Gooch should have an asterisk. Um, it's just a weird comment, and I didn't listen to the question happened that brought it on in his interview. But essentially, he says, yeah, if Rory closes out the Masters tournament, wins his Grand Slam, or closes out the Grand Slam by winning the Masters tournament, really at any point, he didn't even say this year. He said, while, you know, it's kind of implied while things stand as they are, that there's going to be an asterisk. There has to be. I believe he said there has to be an asterisk because the best players are not in the field. Are you sure the best players are not in the field, Taylor Gooch? Because I think 20% of the LIV field this week is in the Masters, um, pretty much off merit of past accomplishments. You got DJ, Masters champion. You've got Rom, Masters champion. You've got Sergio, Masters champion. I'm pretty sure Bryson's going to be in there with his U.S. Open victory and just other wins on the PGA Tour. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's there. You've got Phil, Masters champion. So who are these best players that are missing? You? Let's talk about that, right? Yeah, he had a pretty hot, streak going. He had a nice, he was, I think, top 30. I think he was 31 or 30th in the world rankings when he went to LIV. And then he won 2 times in LIV, back-to-back weeks. And I think his team won, like the overall season that first year, maybe second year. Okay. You want to talk about limited fields? Your most recent 2 wins came from limited fields. Did it not? Who were you missing in those tournaments? Should we asterisk those as well? It's just a dumb comment. Like, what are you talking about? A lot of people are saying that more people should be invited. Why? Taylor Gooch, why should you be invited? Because you won 2 tournaments in a row, made a bunch of money, and think you deserve an invite? Is that why you should be invited? Or can the Masters just invite whoever they want? Because that's how it's been. That's how it's been forever. I'm just a little confused, Taylor, like what you're expecting. You knew the deal when you went to LIV Golf. You knew when you took the big chunk of money that the way things stood is that you'd stop earning points, which means you'd lose invites. You wouldn't qualify for certain tour or certain events. And now you're living the consequences of that decision. Um, the world's just not going to stop operating the way it is and completely switch because you want it to. Anyways, just a weird situation. It seemed like Rory handled the comment pretty well. Just kind of saying, yeah, I mean, whatever. uh, it's it, at this point, are not all golf tournaments, pro golf tournaments between pretty much every tour, limited fields with how divided it is? Right? You got great players that LIV. You have great players on the PGA Tour, and neither are playing the same events besides the majors. So take that for what it's worth. Excited to see how it plays out in general. I think we mentioned this on the last podcast with John. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of merger, if LIV's going to be coming back to the PGA Tour, or maybe, PGA Tour turns more into LIV. Who knows? With John Rahm moving, I mean, it's clearly evident that they're not going to stop trying to sign players, right? At all, which makes sense. Why you got to keep continuing to grow your brand while still working out negotiations and deals with the PGA Tour. I think it takes 1 or 2 more superstars to leave and we're done. LIV Golf's going to be the tour. Like, they're close. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to deny that at all. The only thing is how are people being able to, there's merit-based qualifications on the PGA Tour. And it's like LIV is like, "Hey, we like you. Maybe you haven't even won a PGA Tour event, but we like you. you want to come play over here? They got like a 19-year-old kid over there. Like, what does he want? I don't know. I don't know. Whereas the PGA Tour, you have thousands of people trying to qualify and work their way up to get their tour card through many avenues. You know, it's a complete shakeup of the game, professional golf, and looking forward to just how it shakes out. Luckily, it's not going to affect me none because I'm terrible at golf and I have zero desire to even try and play in any sort of tournament. Just go out and have fun. That being said, my buddy Eddie, he's a very good golfer. Uh, Always tries to qualify, for U.S. Open through tournaments and the U.S. Amateur. I'll be on the bag for him. It'll be a great experience. Maybe we lightning strikes one weekend and we get to move up, but we'll see. We'll see. It'll be fun. Overall, just excited to see the direction of professional golf from a spectator, because the Live Hardos, they kind of have a point. The Mexico Open wasn't great. Yeah, we had a good story of the winner in Jake Knapp, but you can't ride that story stuff too long. We want to see Rory win. We want to see Spieth win. We want to see Justin Thomas win. We want to see Zalatoris win. We want to see these big name players win, and they can't win if they're not playing. And they're not playing because there's too many tournaments that don't mean anything, right? And all these guys, they've won tournaments. They have exemptions in certain situations, but it's just not, the incentive's not there. They need to cut out some of these, low end tournaments, and they need to elevate more. They need to put more on the table for these pros to win. And it's just not there. I don't think these elevated events are enough at this point, especially when LIV's throwing around $500 million deals to John Rahm, $300 million to DJ, however much Cam Smith made. I mean, they got a good group of boys over there, and they're not stopping. So let's pause here to do a little marketing, we'll call it. We're the Great Bogey Pod on Twitter and at Great Bogey Podcast on YouTube. We'd appreciate if you'd like, subscribe, interacted with the posts and the videos by sharing, liking, commenting, all of the above. Once again, that's the Great Bogey Pod on X, Twitter, and the Great Bogey Podcast on YouTube. You can also search my name, Cameron Zeich, to find me on both. All right, back to the last topic here of, in the title I have Rory to LIV. And it just ties into what we were talking about. Rory to LIV. So he made a weird comment during media day today at the Cognizant, and it just seemed like, he's completely switched his stance on LIV golf, right? When it first happened, he's like, if LIV golf's the last place to play golf, I'll retire. First of all, speaking in absolutes like that is so dumb, especially as an athlete, especially as somebody who's probably being offered incredible amounts of money to move, right? John Rahm at one point said, I pledge my fealty, like he was all diplomatic about it. I pledge my fealty to the PGA Tour. And just like a month ago, he took $500 million to go play LIV. Like, we all know everyone can be bought. Everyone has a price. Okay. And when you speak in those absolutes like John Rahm and Rory have, you just look like a jerk. You look like an idiot. Maybe not an idiot, right? The guy's making $500 million. He doesn't care what Cameron Zeich thinks. But it's like, just say that. And that's what John did. He said, listen, the money was a huge factor. He said it played a part. It played the most part. If my employer said, hey, if you want to work 30% of the time and make 20 times more money, you can do that. I'd be like, oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. And the hot topic with LIV is, where's the money coming from? I don't know where the money comes from. Saudi Arabia has been involved in some serious allegations and some serious situations when it comes to violence, dictatorship, everything like that. And I get that's a hot button for a lot of people, but 99.9% of people are not turning down that kind of money and that kind of opportunity if handed to them. So Rory to LIV, he's recently turned his stance around, right? He's saying, no, they should never be able to come back, blah, 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 blah. And now he's saying, well, yeah, they should be able to come back. They should be able to play tournaments, which I think Spieth and somebody else said, nah, we think they should earn their way back, which I agree with. If you're ranked 350th in the world because you've played LIV the last 3 years, go Monday qualify, go do something, right? You're probably going to qualify. You can get sponsor exemptions still, I guess, but the PGA Tour shouldn't just open up the window for somebody to come back, if you ask me. During media day, Rory was asked a question about meeting some guy named Chubby. If I should know who that is, I apologize, but I don't. And it led to the interviewer asking it, the guy asking the question, asking, he said there's about a 10% chance of you going to LIV, and that was like last year, we'll say. And Rory just like, maybe it was a joke, maybe not, says, it's probably somewhere in the middle. So I hear that as, okay, 10% chance is the low, 100% chance is the max, right? Somewhere in the middle of that's, we'll call it 50%, 45%. So essentially a 50-50 coin toss. Rory is going to LIV. If something isn't done with the PGA Tour, the PIF, this investment firm that's come in and started dumping money into the PGA Tour, if something doesn't happen, Rory's going to go get the bag, which nobody should blame him. It's just annoying with his whole backpedaling, we'll call it. And if Rory goes, the PGA Tour is done. If he goes to the LIV, the PGA Tour is done. It's going to be obsolete. He'll be the biggest domino. You'll see Spieth. You'll see Thomas going. You'll see all of them. And then the PGA Tour is just going to be a bunch of guys nobody's ever heard of. And that's good for them. But it's not good for spectators. It's not good for people who have invested their time and their resources in the PGA Tour. Because ultimately, the viewers are not going to care where their golf's coming from if they're watching on TV. But we want the Masters to happen. We want the U.S. Open to be brutal. And if LIV takes over, we don't know how it's going to look. At least with the PGA Tour, you have some certainty, I'll say, with these big tournaments. So it's interesting. LIV only needs one or two more superstars, and they've got the majority. It's close. Like, we're at a 50-50 split, essentially. And they just seem to have unending money to throw at these guys. So overall, interested to see, the next probably 2 years, what it looks like for professional golf. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the next, we'll say 6 months, after the majors, Rory's announcing he's going to LIV. Would that shock anybody? At this point, no, it shouldn't. John Rahm was kind of shocking. You're scrolling golf Twitter, and one day you're hearing John Rahm's like undying loyalty to the PGA Tour, and the next it's, John Rahm's making this announcement in a Letterman jacket. Okay, all right, and we have no control of it as spectators and fans of the game. We just gotta watch it happen, which I'm fine with. Can't control everything. All right. Let's talk about the 2 tournaments happen. We kind of spoke to Jeddah. I'm not getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning to watch. I will try to DVR it, but if my track record of actually watching things I've DVR'd sports related is any inclination, there's a good chance I don't even watch that. Unfortunately, in today's society, I can just go to ESPN.com and look at the standings and see how Anthony Kim shot and see who's in the lead. That being said, we're going to pick some winners here. I kind of have a dark horse for both, and then a more realistic, I'll say realistic, but a better odds winner for each tournament. And I'm gonna go with the hot hand for my dark horse when it comes to Jeddah. He won last week. I believe it was can't off the top of my head, I can't remember what tour it was. But we're gonna go with Carlos Ortiz. right? As my dark horse. As my more higher odds, better pick to win, I'm gonna go Brooks. I think he's got a chance to 3P here. He likes the course clearly. We're gonna go Brooks Koepka. So dark horse, Carlos Ortiz, go for 2 in a row, weeks wise, and then Brooks Koepka for the more realistic pick. Now the Cognizant played in Palm Beach Gardens in Florida. Kind of kind of a limited field again. You know, we have a couple stars in Rory. I think Akshay Bhatia brings some fans. It's just it's not a great field, and I understand we have the players coming up. We have the Arnold Palmer coming up, but it's tournaments like these where it's like, why aren't people playing? That's what we gotta figure out. How do we get them there, and how do we have consistency across the board? I am bringing up the field. I thought I had it up already for the Cognizant. First look. Let's see here. So let's look at this. The highest ranked players in the field, world ranking: Rory, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tom Kim, Cameron Young, Sepp Straka, Matthew Pavon, Chris Kirk, Russell Henley, Ricky, and Sung Jae. Listen, I know every single one of these people. Matthew Pavon this year because he just won. Okay, right? He's one of the 3 rookies that have won this year. This isn't a great. This is not a strong field relative to what they could put out there. Um, where's Spieth? Where's Justin Thomas? Where's Ricky? We got Ricky here. Where's Max Homa? Why isn't Max playing? Let's get to the picks because I could talk about this for days, and we're going to be wrapping up here. For my dark horse, and I like this guy. He's won on the PGA Tour. He's very young. He went pro very young. He's lefty. Seems like an all right guy. Watched him on a few YouTube videos to see a little bit more of his personality. For the dark horse, I'm going to go Akshay Bhatia. I just like his game. I like him. Just wouldn't mind seeing him win again. For my more realistic pick, I say realistic because he's won a few times on tour. He's won recently, not this year yet, but he took home the Rocket Mortgage last year. One of my favorites. Got to walk with him a little bit at the Waste Management Open on Tuesday, and Ricky Fowler. I think Ricky's got a good shot to take this down. Hopefully he plays well. Love to see him get back on the saddle a little bit more and start, getting some top tens, even a few wins over the next couple seasons. So that's where we're at. I'm hoping that we can continue to grow and continue to put out content. I want to hear from you guys, the listeners, on what you'd like to hear, what you'd like to see, and what you'd like us to talk about. I'm hoping to get more guests, hoping to continue to put out content, once, twice a week while we build up this platform and build up this community. Once again, we're going to be uploading. We're actually on Spotify now, the Great Bogey Podcast on Spotify. We're the Great Bogey Pod on X, and on YouTube, we are Great Bogey Podcast. So if you could like, share, subscribe, interact with the post as much as possible, it'd be greatly appreciated. Like I said, our main goal is just continue to grow the community and the platforms that we mentioned before. And we will be back soon with a recap of what we of these 2 tournaments, and probably doing a look forward to the players coming soon. So y'all have a good night.